This week on SPNN Forum, I'll be sitting down with several members of the St. Paul City Council. Stay watching. Well, look at who I have with me today. I am so honored that you are here with me, several members of the St. Paul City Council. So speaking on areas of focus, actually before we dive into that, several members are new to the council this year, and several are returning from years past. Who is new and who is returning?
So me and Councilmember Cheniqua Johnson and Sarah Jones and Councilmember Waijong Kim are new to the council. So I'm a newbie. I'm having a lot of fun, in this role. I'm learning so much. Also, I'm new to this role, but not new to the work, if that makes sense, right? Of community advocacy and organizing.
Wonderful. I bet it's just a learning curve and just as exciting as it is. Maybe challenging at the same time.
A marathon of learning, yes, but I'm having joy and having fun in the process. So.
And it's also your first round.
Yeah, I'm a newbie as well, representing for the newbies. No, but it's just been it's an eye-opening experience. I'm taking it by storm, really, learning about a lot of different things, getting briefed to death. No, I'm playing. But actually,
it's called onboarding.
Actually, no. But I mean, it's been, this is the first time in a long time that we've ever had 4 new council members. I think the last time was literally in 1997 when my predecessor's predecessor, Kathy Lantry, was sworn in. Yeah. And so when you just think about what that means, right? It's a lot of dusting off the onboarding tools and training and sharing with us what's really important. But the world doesn't stop, the business doesn't stop, right? So you learn as you work as well.
Well, and that goes beyond these important roles that you have. That goes for anybody, right?
Sure.
Kindergartners going through the first time around, sketching the letter A, all the way to folks getting their PhDs, and then prestigious roles that, help support the community. So I stand with you on that. Council member Noecker, thank you for saying that, because in my brain I'm like, I can make up whatever, but that's all right. What does it feel like for you being part of a city council that's leading the way for a lot of people in this country? Because this was kind of a groundbreaking milestone for St. Paul, but also remarkable for people around our nation.
It's thrilling. I mean, I'm so proud of us. I'm proud of the voters of St. Paul who put us here. Something we've kind of kept saying is that we're all women. We're an incredibly diverse council in so many ways, but we're also professionals. We're experienced in many different ways. We're connected with our communities, and we wouldn't be here if St. Paul voters hadn't seen that in us and chosen to put us here. So I think it says as much about us as it does about our community, really. And it's just been a lot of fun. And actually, I don't think, Council President Jalali and I were talking about this on the way into the studio today, I don't know that I realized how big of a deal this was, not just locally and nationally, but across the world. We got so many requests for international press. We did a number of interviews. It's just been really exciting to be able to talk to people about what this means and to inspire people.
Wow. I mean, yes, and that's not going to stop for years and years and years to come. I mean, it's history making, but also for you, it's like, this is the work. We're just doing it, and we're having a little extra fun too. Council President Jalali, what does it look like, decision making as a collective? That's got to be a task on its own.
Yeah, I think that the council coming in with all these community relationships, like people have been talking about, returning and new council members, so this amazing mix of perspectives, folks who have institutional knowledge and understand how to get things done, and then folks who are like, I'm going to ask the questions about why this is, and those are necessary questions to just kind of stir the pot and get fresh perspective into what we're doing. So I do feel like in the first 3 months, we've passed a $45 million investment in our streets and parks through a newly approved sales tax. Our council was involved in really shaping where are those investments going, both in that first round of votes, and then that revenue source is going to be there for the next 2 decades. So that's huge. That's what it looks like to kind of translate. Voters gave us that direction, and we want to make sure that the funds go where they need to go. We have passed a ceasefire resolution after weeks of hearing from constituents and responding to this really devastating crisis that we've been seeing unfold. Our council has taken steps to advance housing, so major redevelopment opportunities around the city, and I think that at every single one of those decisions, there's always like a council member champion who's leading it in the ward that the work is happening, and then we are looking to how to support that leader and make sure that our shared city priorities are happening. So I think that every single week it's a collaborative process, but the starting point is leaders who know our community, who have their trust through that election, like Councilman Noecker was saying, and then just work in the system to deliver results for our residents. That's really every single day what we get up to do.
I love that word, champion. Council women members working with the voters. Speaking of the voters, how does a relationship shape out? What does that look like for folks that are not well versed or just unfamiliar with you? What does that look like when you're working with them collaboratively, but they're also the ones that voted for you ultimately? So what does that relationship look like?
I think especially being part of like the freshman class, we get the opportunity to ask all the questions, right? Like leaning into what may feel like dumb questions, but we know we're, leaning into the questions and making sure that that constituents know how to be better connected to our services, and that our, amazing employees who are like working hard to make sure we're delivering the services that's actually in alignment with what people actually need. Me and all of our other council members are always asking for acronyms to be defined, asking those questions of why, how did this even come about, how is this better, how we better can use, these tax dollars, why we have certain like regulations around things, and even in our own role too, of just like how our council office operates. And like a lot of people don't know really truly the role of what we play in terms of like our budget year, our constituency, services. So it's a lot of learning, and also it's a lot of pushing the envelope too. Because I think, they elected us, the voters elected us to actually transform and make change and make sure that our city council is more accessible. So that also pushes us to think outside of our own like parameters of what this role should be. So it's been exciting. It's been exciting to not only like ask those challenging questions, but also have like a team that can back you up when you don't know everything.
And it takes a team. It takes a community, right? Back and forth. Council member Johnson, this is early on for your milestone career point right here. So folks can chime in to back that and contribute to it too. But so far, what has been something challenging that you've observed or witnessed or come across that makes it harder to push the envelope forward? Maybe try to be transparent so the constituents find understanding, but it's not all clear water, right? So what's been a challenge you've observed?
I mean, I will say that for me, in order to really translate anything back to community, or even within, like, to translate policy to any group that you're talking to, they have to be listening as well. And so you really have to maneuver quite a few things when you're just engaging people overall, whether you're in the city, whether I'm talking to city staff or city departments, or if I'm talking to community members. Like, you can tell, I will say for me as a new person, as a young woman, as a Black woman, as a person who's like new in the space, I can see and experience like when a person is listening to my response and when it's like they're maybe listening to respond, or they're kind of like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, right, like you've had those experiences, as I would say a lot of women of color have had that experience of like, why do I have to repeat myself?
Sure.
I've now said this 3 different times. I don't know any other way to say this. Or is it being received? And I think that like that just comes back to like, the overall challenges of government work often is like bringing a bunch of people in the same space to get on the same page. People may have at that point had multiple conversations on the side, but ultimately you have to make a decision that hopefully people in the room can stand by. And so even in the most tough decisions so far, that has been what I've really tried to hold. Council President Jalali mentions the ceasefire resolution, and it unanimously passed amongst our phenomenal group of women council members, and that was a lot of work and conversation. And I was proud to be the lead author on it, mostly because of how our council members collectively were able to get the priorities added into what we wrote. And then I also think that there are other examples of where, passing 45, like having a decision right, one vote casts the trajectory with $45 million, years of work
That's
involved
not
in
chump
one
change.
decision.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
So it's really explaining that magnitude of like, this is what we're talking about.
Sure.
Because I take, even in the last 2 months, it'll be 3 months on April 9th since we've been sworn in, and I don't take for granted just how much each decision we make that might seem small,
Right.
that may be just a quick consent agenda item that never gets talked about, is like millions of dollars going somewhere.
Such a big deal.
Yeah. So you just, that's part of the reason why I was interested in local government in the first place.
Sure.
But that's also the things we go back to our community and like have conversations with people about, something as small as, hey, why does my street not have a stop sign at the end of it? Why does my street not have a speed bump on it? Why is the business down the street like that changing from a liquor store to a different business?
Right.
All of those things come towards the city council, and it's really just explaining
Yes.
that to folks that are wanting to hear what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
So it's always fun when people are like, what are you doing? And they expect a really big grand answer. And I'm like, I just approved an HVAC system for
doing
a
a
rec
big-
center. Like, that's exciting.
It is
So,
exciting.
yeah.
As a mother who had a little one at the time living on the north side, I really appreciated when our community center, Northdale, had proper things just
Yep.
to function.
Yep.
And that we had the proper, infrastructure, and the playground was doing its thing and whatever. And then same on the west side. I was a resident of the west side, and on Grand Avenue. Yeah, I think I represented almost all of your wards with you. Right. At some point or another. But that's really, thank you for shaping that out and kind of giving us a visual, because it's a lot of dirty work for a big decision that may look little.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great point just to kind of welcome back our audience. If you're just tuning in now, my name is Anahita Champion. I am sitting down with 4 of our amazing council members of the City of St. Paul City Council. Ooh, I made that tougher than it is. For folks that are maybe immigrants, or maybe folks that are just not well versed in what a relationship looks like, I'm kind of piggybacking from an earlier question. Where's a good place to start for constituents and future voters to get to know the work that you're doing, understand how they can participate? Where's like a beginner step?
One of the things I like best about our jobs and about local government in general is that this is the level of government where you can reach out to your council member directly and meet them and understand what they're working on and share what you're concerned about and excited about. The best parts of my day are when I get emails or calls from constituents, often with ideas or questions or something fun to share, and getting to meet them in community or at City Hall. So it's really possible to make that direct connection with the person who represents you at the local level. And I just encourage anybody who is, however long they've been in this country, however old they are, whatever you identify as, you should reach out and feel like your city council is representing you, and you should not be afraid to request a meeting, a phone call, to come to a city hall meeting, and start to get connected.
So it's really just relationship building at its core. Email, socials. I mean, you go to the website and you can kind of get all your contact info. At least that's how I got you guys here. If you're not hard to find.
House, people are meeting us there, so.
Yes, you're regular civilians in the city of St. Paul. You too go to Target. What would you say to the young future leaders who are aspiring to make change but don't know what that means, whether it's at the playground or in their school or in their college or in their town or even globally? That's a big old question, but just simple advice.
I think there's a lot of power in asking questions to try to understand, why isn't this working the way it needs to? And for me, I ask questions of like every elected leader and presumable person in charge that I could find. And I just got to a point of, oh, this isn't like a problem of resource or a problem of, lack of information. This is like a problem of power. This is a problem of our community doesn't have power at the table in the spaces we need to make this work better.
Sure.
And that then helped me get on the path to, well, if I run for local office, I can at least play a leading role in taking care of my community, like Ward 4, where I represent. And then I think each of us kind of answered that call after asking all those same questions, right? Like, why do we still have these disparities in our community? Why isn't this system working or funded as equitably as it could be? All these different things, right? And so I think that curiosity is a powerful force. I think when you combine that with organizing and offering a clear vision, I think that it can be tempting in political culture to like repeat people's problems back to them, and sometimes that is mistaken as leadership.
Okay.
I think leadership is, I'm gonna speak the truth about what I see happening to my community, but I also have ideas for how to solve it. And will you put your trust in my ability and these ideas? And I think that's the direction our voters gave us when we got elected. So I think it's all those things, right? It's ask those questions, lift up those realities, and then look at ways within the system where you're running to represent and have that power, which comes with that responsibility to actually do something about it. So that's my vantage point on it, but there's so many ways to make change.
Sure.
We're in politics, we're in elected office, but there's people making change through doing youth arts programming events that are giving kids something to do and a way to express themselves. There's people making change every day, taking care of our kids in rec centers, in the libraries. There's folks making sure our water is safe. Like there's all these ways that you can be the change you want. So those are some things that I think young folks should start.
And change is
doing.
not a dirty word. Politics is not a dirty word. Governance is not a dirty word. I think it's really redirecting the definition, and I loved how you broke that down too. Helpful for adults, not even just the youngsters. It's folks that maybe just need a different perspective, but also the encouragement to listen. Right, it's a two-way street. Right. It's not always just the road that you drive on that's two-way. It's also communication. These puns are just here all day. But we are not, unfortunately. So before we go, I got to ask you some fun questions about St. Paul. Not facts, not like things that you have to answer. There's no quiz. But I want to know, and we'll start down with Councilmember Bowie. What is your favorite local business that you like to frequent here in St. Paul? You don't have to. Yeah, it is a hot seat.
Millions of viewers.
You don't have to pick one, but where do you frequent? Whether it's a business, a venue, coffee shop?
Absolutely. Well, my frequent go-to spot where I love to meet my constituents is at Flavor Cafe. Okay. It's actually owned. It's a Black woman business. It's a queer space. It's also a space that would have a bunch of books by Black women artists and authors, and they have a spoken word session there. So I just love it. It's very vibrant. It's new. It's like ushering in like that young spirit.
Yes.
It's very welcoming. It's something about like being born and raised in St. Paul and having my family here for years. You're very deeply rooted, right? So like I don't see people as constituents or voters. I see them as a collective of families.
Right.
And what I love about Flavor Cafe, it has like that warm, heartwarming, like soulful like space there.
Well, I'll see you there.
It's inviting. So I'm there, meeting one person. Next thing you know, I'm hugging 10 other people, and it's just always, it's great food. And it's right on the corridor of Dell and University, and like it's a great model of what investment and development looks like for the future of St. Paul, ensuring that we have housing and small businesses, and we just have space where everyone's celebrated.
It's just a community house, really. I love that. Okay. All right. We're going to continue. Favorite local spot, business establishment, one that you frequent, or one that you would like more people to know about?
So there's an embarrassment of riches in Ward 2, not to brag, but it's kind of hard to choose. We just have so many wonderful local businesses and great neighborhood spots. I will say I often am found at Hepcat Coffee in downtown St. Paul on Wabasha Street. It's in the Osborne 370 lobby, and the reason I like it is because people just walk through, walk by, stop by, and you end up having all of these organic conversations that you wouldn't have if you were just in your office. And so it ends up becoming this third place for community that I think, frankly, we need more of. And then I just have to mention biking to CHS Field with my kids and watching a Saints game. We can be found doing that pretty much all summer long, and we can bike from our house on the west side along 52, come in that cool back entrance where there's bike parking, and feel like we have our own entranceway just built right for us. So it's kind of cool to go in the back way.
This is like, I feel like I'm your neighbors. This is wonderful. Okay, here we go. We're going to continue the tough question.
Panic when I get asked this question. I'm just panicking, like, there's so many different spots.
Per your Instagram, I think that we can see lots of places you go.
My Instagram is an unofficial diary of my favorite spots. So I think today I'll say Rafiki Coffee and Cafe is great.
Yes.
They are just a wonderful, they have a meeting space. They're in the, so some of you might remember on Fairview Avenue, there was an old coffee shop, Lucy's, and it's kind of been a few things over the years. So in that space, basically at Fairview and University, Rafiki Coffee and Cafe is there, and they specialize in basically the same basics you'll get at other coffee shops, but then there's also sambusa. They have a catering business, so if you want delicious African food catering, you can get it there. Also other stuff like just deli sandwiches, stuff like that. And then they have a little meeting room, so if you want to have a little business meeting and you may not have your own space at your office, just go to Rafiki Coffee. They're awesome.
They're so sweet.
And so friendly, and I think when you get there, there's a sign that says Karibu, and it's just basically saying welcome, and so it's a great experience.
And
You
they
should check that
opened
out.
about less than a year ago.
Yeah,
So
new business in Ward 4.
I love it.
Awesome spot.
All
Yep.
right, Councilmember Johnson.
I'm just like, look, shout out to the East Side.
Yes and yes.
I will say that for me, one of the reasons I moved to the East Side, it was because I actually could go to a restaurant, get food authentically made by community members and by Black and Brown owned businesses. So I often am at like Storehouse Grocers. I think Carl Johnson is amazing, and I see the work that they're doing. I will never turn down an invitation to Taqueria Los Pasianos because their nachos are amazing. And then, for me, I kind of truck along the East Side, and I think the actual Karibu is actually super amazing too. And I know that all three businesses are owned by Black and Brown folks. They've had, they're building, they're working towards making sure they can continue to have that ownership. But I love a good food place, brunch space, or a cafe.
All right, we have some places to go, everybody. Listen.
I did. I cheated. I couldn't.
Entire segment.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm going to let y'all take that back to the office and figure that out. But for today, I want to say thank you so much for making the time. Thank you for leading the city and the country. And I really appreciate getting to know each of you a little bit better, even though some of you have known for a little while. And please do continue to come back and support SPNN. And thank you, everybody, for watching today. Give all those businesses a shout out, or continue to reach out to our city council members. And we will see you next time on another episode of SPNN Forum. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.